Good morning, students. I wanted to touch base with you about your Population Project and Partner paper, which is the first assignment due in your capstone course. You can find full assignment instructions, guidelines, and grading rubric in Appendix B and C of the course syllabus. This paper, of course, is an APA paper like you're used to in other courses that you've taken in the RN to BSN program. And your paper should follow the APA ground rules outlined in your course syllabus, and it also should be written in third-person voice. The first part of your paper is going to be the introduction, which is also usual and standard as you're writing a paper. And remember that according to APA, we don't use introduction as a heading. It's assumed that the author of a paper will provide an introduction to the paper, and therefore we don't use the word introduction as one of our APA headings. So in your introduction to your paper, you're going to briefly identify your health problem or issue that your project is going to focus on, and you're going to briefly describe the population that your project is going to focus on. Again, an introduction sets the stage for the remainder of your paper and helps orient the reader to what they're going to learn more about as they read through your paper. You're going to talk a little bit about your organization or community agency. Please be sure you provide contact information. It's helpful to your course faculty to have this information in their file. And then we're going to ask you to talk a little bit about the mission and values of the organization or agency, the population that is served, and the primary work. Again, this is background information about the organization or community agency, and it helps provide a little bit of a framework for your health project and the population that you'll be focusing on. And hopefully the projects that you've picked is a good fit for the agency in which you are going to carry it out in. Next, you're going to talk a little bit about your project liaison. Again, this name, credentials, contact information is important. Faculty will need to contact your project liaison, and it's helpful if we have correct information in terms of how to get a hold of them. You're going to talk a little bit about your project liaison's experience, expertise, education, licensure. You're setting the stage for this person being the appropriate person to guide you, to work with you, to be your partner on this project. And then importantly, you're going to talk about how the project liaison is going to function in terms of your project. How will that person engage in decision making with you? How will that person help you navigate within the organization? How will that person help you get oriented if there's some orientation requirements that you need to do? How will that person help you gain access to the documents or computers or other resources that you need? How will that project liaison engage in problem solving with you, because issues will come up that you'll need to address with your project liaison. And then you're going to talk with that project liaison and come to an agreement about what your project deliverable will be, what it is that you're going to accomplish by the end of this health project. And then you're going to talk a little bit about your communication plan. And this is so important that you have this conversation with your project liaison up front. Establish the way that you're going to communicate with that person. Is it going to be phone or email? Are you going to schedule time to meet in person? How often are you going to talk and touch base? And when can you expect a response from your project liaison? And if they email or call you, when can they expect a response from you? Keeping in close communication with your project liaison is key. It will help circumvent a lot of problems and issues. So establish up front how it is you're going to stay in contact, give progress reports, seek assistance, etc. on your project. And then I'd like you to think about other people who can inform your project. They may be within or outside the agency. It may be IT people, it may be dietary, it may be a committee, it may be another person with an expertise on some aspect of your project. So think about these people and how you'll collaborate with them and what they will add to your project. Next, be sure and include your contact information so that faculty can get a hold of you. We only have access to your NCU email, and sometimes we need to call you on the phone or get a hold of you in another way. So that's why this information is important. The bulk of your paper is going to be addressing these questions about your health project. I'm going to ask you again to specifically talk about your health project and the issue that you plan to address, and to explain why it is that you chose this problem. You're going to talk about the purpose of your project. You're going to identify an appropriate nursing theory that you're going to use to frame your project. And then you're going to talk about what it is you're going to do. What's your project deliverable at the end of the day? Are you going to develop a handout or a brochure or a teaching project, or create a policy? That's your deliverable, what it is you're going to do. The two items highlighted in red are things that have tripped up students in the past on this assignment, identifying ethical, legal, moral considerations, and project costs. Each project will have ethical, legal, and moral considerations that you need to think about. Some will be more clear-cut than others. So if you're struggling with this, I encourage you to talk with your project liaison and your course faculty. We may need to be creative in terms of how we think about these three elements, but they are important. They are a part of projects that we need to consider. You're going to revisit these issues later on. So be thinking about them up front, what you anticipate you'll encounter. These may change over time. They may not be the correct ones. That's okay. You'll have opportunity to think about these again. But I do want you to address these things in this paper, so please don't skip over this question. In terms of costs, it could be supplies, it could be printing, it could be time. Think about the time of your project liaison. It could be ordering something special for a project or a teaching project. So all projects have costs, and I want you to think about those. Also be anticipating some of the barriers, challenges, or concerns that you may have that are coming up as you're working through your project, thinking about it, and put those forth in this paper, and we can think about ways that we can help you overcome those. Some may be big barriers and challenges, and some may not turn out to be anything, but it's always good to anticipate so that you can have a plan for how you're going to address them. And as always, when you're writing papers, you need to include a summary paragraph and a paper reference page that's formatted according to APA for all citations included in the body of your paper. And then finally, I wanted to talk about the project agreement form that you're going to be submitting. Again, you're going to submit your organization and project liaison contact information. You're going to summarize your project and your project deliverable. And then I'm going to ask you to be thinking about a timeline. I want you to chunk out your project for the 7 weeks of this semester in terms of what is it that you're going to do. Each week you need to be working on this project so that time doesn't get away from you and you come to the end and go, oh my gosh, I wish I would have, or here I am and I have all of this work to do. So a timeline is for you to be thinking about those big things, those next steps that you need to be doing as you move through the course. It doesn't need to be a narrative. You can use bullet points to chunk out the big ideas, but be thinking about what it is you need to do next. Next week, what are you going to focus on? Are you going to do a literature review? Are you going to meet with your project liaison? Are you going to develop a PowerPoint or start working on your handout or your flyer? So be thinking about those things that you need to do to continue to move your project forward. You're going to revisit this timeline again later on in the course because I know that you're not going to follow the timeline. That's just the nature of projects. And so I'm going to give you an opportunity to revise and readjust your timeline. Maybe you had too many things in 1 2-week block of time and life got in the way. And that's okay, that is going to happen, but then you need to move those elements forward and think about how you're going to accomplish them in the time that you have. Or maybe you got held up because somebody didn't get back to you, or you didn't get the paper that you needed or the article or whatever, so now you have to readjust. So the timeline is for you to plan out your project, what you're going to do each week to help you keep on track you should keep moving forward, and you will have opportunity to revise and update and think about this again later on in the course. And finally, you're going to have some signatures on this form before you submit it for grading. Please ensure that both you and your project liaison sign this form. This is our way of knowing that you've talked about this project with your project liaison, that they're in agreement with what it is that you're going to do. And then we have both of those signatures on record. Okay, that's what you have to do in the next weeks ahead. Please don't hesitate to contact your course faculty for questions, concerns. We're here to assist you, and keep up the good work, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.